We'd heard stories. As soon as I left the house, I thought for a second about turning back. We'd heard stories of people throwing acid in the faces of girls in Afghanistan. It hadn't happened here yet, but with everything that had happened, it didn't seem impossible. But somehow my feet carried me forward, all the way to school. What a peculiar place Mingora had become. Gunfire and cannons as background noise. Hardly any people in the streets. And if you did see anyone, you couldn't help but think this person could be a terrorist. And a girl in a pink shalwar kameez sneaking off to school. The BBC correspondent asked for more news from SWAT for the next diary post. I didn't know what to tell him. He asked me to write about the killings. It seemed so obvious to him that this was news. But to me, what you experience every day is no longer news. It was as if I had become immune to fear. Until one day, on my way home from school, I heard a man behind me say, "I will kill you." My heart stopped, but somehow my feet kept going. I quickened my pace until I was far ahead of him. I ran home, shut the door, and after a few seconds peeked out at him. There he was, oblivious to me, shouting at someone on his phone. I laughed a bit at myself. Malala, I told myself, there are real things to be afraid of. You don't need to imagine danger where there is none. The real worry, it seemed to me, was being found out. And, of course, it was Muniba who was first to guess the identity of Gul Makai. "I read a diary in the newspaper," she told me one day at recess. "And the story sounded like our story, what happens in our school. It's you, isn't it?" she said. I could not lie, not to Muniba. But when I confessed, she became more angry than ever. "How can you say you're my best friend when you're keeping such an important secret from me?" She turned on her heel and left. And yet I knew, as angry as she was, she wouldn't reveal my secret. It was my father who did that. By accident, of course. He was telling a reporter how terrifying it was for children just to walk to and from school. His own daughter, he said, thought a man on his phone had threatened to kill her. Just about everyone recognized the story from the diary, and by April, my days as Gul Makai, the secret diarist, would be over. But the diary had done its job. Now a number of reporters were following the story of Fazlullah's attempt to shut down the girls' schools of Pakistan, including a man from the New York Times.